your muscles and your ligaments very lax.
Oh.
But too much vitamin D can make them very spasmic. So it's opposite. But yes, you can. And, Dr. Oz went out there, and nothing against Dr. Oz. I think he's, pretty fabulous in his realm, what he's doing. But, he gets out there and he says, if there's a vitamin everybody should take, it should be vitamin D. Everybody needs vitamin D. You know what? When I am up in Huron County, my patients, some of them are farmers. And my old-timer farmers do not use sunscreen. They might wear a hat, but they don't use sunscreen. And it's most unfortunate because a lot of them are ending up with some skin cancer problems on their faces and whatnot, around their ears and on their foreheads and the upper lip and all
the
that.
spots they get sunburned.
Yes. But they will be out in the sun for
They don't need vitamin D.
10 hours straight. They don't need vitamin D. In fact, they can come in with too much vitamin D just from being exposed to the sun.
Is that right?
That's how we make it. We make it when we go out in the sun. So basically, again, everything in moderation. You can't have too much. You can't have too little. You need to be right in the middle. You need to be aware of what you're doing, what you're putting into your body, how much time you're spending in the sun.
So would it make sense then to take vitamin D in the winter when there is no sun?
Yes, more people need it in the winter. And then in the summertime, I tell them, if you get out in the yard or if you're in the sun for 20 minutes a day, you don't need to take your vitamin D that day. But if you're going to be isolated in a cave like I am sometimes all day, I might need to take my vitamin D that day because I really don't want to have low vitamin D. Vitamin D is super important. But at the same time, I don't want to get too much. So I don't want to be taking, whatever it is, 5,000 IUs per day, normal daily recommended dose, on top of what I'm getting from the sun,
Right.
all of those things. So you just have to really pay attention. And they're really, I guess there's not one thing on this planet that you can't get too much of, even water. And I've talked about that before. Too much water can cause all kinds of issues. It's called water intoxication, and people don't realize, but you could literally die from too much water. You can, and it's not that you drowned. It creates acidosis. It creates a weird chemical reaction inside your body where you end up, your organs shut down. But that's in extreme cases when you're drinking gallons of it. There was a radio show out in California several years ago who had a contest who could drink the most water, and somebody died from it.
Oh,
yeah,
my gosh.
somebody died from it.
Who would have thought that?
Exactly.
I'm sure they didn't.
Yeah, oh, no.
Wow.
And it kind of got brushed under the rug pretty quickly, too. Yeah, you oversaturate your cells is what it is, but... Yeah,
wow,
so,
interesting.
And there's other things, there's things in your water, too. So, speaking of water, that can lead me to heavy metals. I mean, when I was in school, my staff doctors always taught me, you should have this much water a day, half your body weight in ounces, whatever. That's a good rule of thumb. Half of it should be bottled water, and the other half should be from your tap. Because you need some of the stuff that you're getting through your tap, and that's debatable because I'm still a fence sitter about, all the fluoride and the citric acid and the, everything that's in our water. So I probably do more 10 to 20% tap water and then the rest of it bottled water, which I prefer either spring water because to me it's more natural. But I mean, I'm going to have a bunch of people jumping on here going, no, it's not. That's not the right kind of water to drink. But, it's what I get a hold of. Reverse osmosis, wonderful type of water. I would drink that in a heartbeat. I don't like purified water. I don't like when they add things to the water. So I'm not a big fan of purified water, but I don't like the taste of it. But I do like the other types. But anyways, what I was going to talk about was when it's coming from your home, you could be getting all kinds of other stuff in your water supply. So if you're drinking 90% water from your faucet, it could be possible, I'm not saying it is, but it could be possible to get too much copper, too much zinc, too much lead,
See,
too
and
much
I drink,
arsenic,
I'm guilty.
too much iron. And it depends on your pipes. You know, if you've got a lot of copper pipes, that's going to leach into the water. We did this experiment, I remember, back in the day when I was in school. I think it was in inorganic chemistry, but it might have been organic chemistry. Anywho, we tested water, plain water versus water that was sitting in an aluminum can for like a week.
Oh, interesting.
And super high amounts of aluminum had leached into that water. So when you're drinking out of cans like that, you're getting a little bit of that aluminum in your drink. I mean, it just is what it is. Same thing with plastic. I never drink water out of plastic if I can help it. But if, I said bottled water, but I put it into... I don't leave it in the bottles or whatever.
Right.
I definitely don't put it in the sun.
Right.
If I have a bottle of water that's been in my car overnight and it's gotten hot or heated,
Throw it away.
I'm going to throw it away.
Water a plant with it.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with bacterial growth. It has everything to do with the plastic leaching into the water and the estrogen levels and all of that stuff. So I'm very careful about that. But I will tell you that... water from your house, from your tap, definitely has heavy metals in it. And human bodies can tolerate some of it. In fact, we need some of it. But a lot of times you're getting too much of it, and you don't know that. So what are some of the things that can happen? Well, if we get too much iron, there's something called iron overload syndrome. And that's the same thing with taking iron. If you're taking iron supplements or if you're eating a bunch of red meat and beans and nuts and seeds and all of that, you could have iron overload syndrome and not know it. And it's a hard diagnosis for medical doctors to make because it's got so many weird symptoms that are just seemingly they don't match up with anything. And it just really causes a burden on your entire system, makes all of your organs have to work that much harder. So it can even lead to blood in the urine. I mean, like red blood, like really red blood. It can lead to all kinds of things. But with that, there's ways to deal with that. I mean, there's chelators. There's different foods that can take the iron out of you if you know it's in you. If you go to the medical doctor, they'll tell you got to go donate blood like 3 or 4 times a year so you can make fresh blood, because once your blood gets saturated with iron, if your body doesn't know how to deal with it, you just got to get it out. So you go donate your blood. Well, there's other ways to do it besides that. That's what the medical community does. What I tell people to do is to eat a lot of apples, pears, cabbage, things that take the iron out of you. So on the flip side of that, if you're not getting enough iron and you're anemic, you should not be eating apples, pears, and cabbage a lot, because that's going to take more iron out of you. And if you're anemic, that's a problem. So,
wow, then I have a question.
Sure.
And I'm not going to enter the chat room or call or anything. I'm just going to ask you right here.
Well, I would have answered the phone anywho if you would have called me.
So I have thalassemia. I think it's pretty common, Mediterranean anemia.
Yes.
So I was misdiagnosed my whole childhood, and they had me taking ferrous iron supplements.
Oh my goodness!
And it never worked. And so finally, my mom just said, "Forget it," and she just gave me beets and red meat. And sometimes I get really hungry for red meat, so I know
I crave it too. On my low iron days, I will crave red meat.
It's weird, isn't it?
Oh yeah, my brain knows.
So should I not eat apples, pears, and cabbage? Oh, my.
You know what? I can't say right off the bat because I can't in my brain right now differentiate between thalassemia and then like the other types of anemia as far as like right off the top of my head.
It's uniron treatable, so would it not make a difference?
Well, B12 has a lot to do with anemia. B6, B7, the other B vitamins do.
Bingo.
So that's what we need to do. So we will test you because I can't tell you a blanket statement answer. But what I can tell you is individually I can muscle test you and I can find out what's going to help my dear Deb.
See, and that's why I love you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's the cool thing is that you do that, all those different things. You don't just go by the regular medical community.
Yeah, by the
book.
rules.
Right.
Because we don't all fall into the rules.
No.
In fact, most of us are not in the rules. If you think of the rules, when it comes to like say, okay, let's say blood pressure levels. Okay, used to be 120 over 70, I think, was the ideal. Now they've gone up, they've gone down. Now 65 or I don't know. I don't even keep up with them because they're so ridiculous how they keep moving it. But it's like to satisfy their sales, I think, of their blood pressure medicines. Like, well, we're not selling enough of that. Let's move that blood pressure rate down, or up or whatever,
doses,
so
right.
we can up the dosage. I don't know. I'm sitting on a soapbox being kind of political there. Sorry. Anyway, take that off there. But what it is that, you have these bell curves that tell you, some of the people are at this end of the spectrum. Most of the people are at the middle of the spectrum. And then some of the people are on the other side of the spectrum. So they take that bell curve and they say, okay, this is normal. Just
So
arbitrary.
they just average it out, right?
Average it out. This is normal. Well, maybe my family isn't like that. Maybe my family's blood pressure runs high, or maybe my family's blood pressure runs low. So let's say normal for my family is 135 to 140 over 80. All my life, going to the medical doctor, they're going to be trying to put me on blood pressure
They
meds.
are, because those are weird numbers in the
All my
medical
life.
community. That's right.
All my life, they'll keep telling me, you're high blood pressure, you're high blood pressure, you're high blood pressure. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I am exactly what I am supposed to be because I am sitting on this side of the bell curve. I am at the higher rate of norm. Just because you put your cutoff marker before my line doesn't make me out of normal range. It makes your normal range stupid.
Amen.
You like that?
Yes.
So we can move that normal range arbitrarily, and then all of a sudden, same thing with cholesterol, right?
Right.
Because started off, I can't remember exactly, so I'm sorry, don't quote me on these things. But in my brain, this is how my memory works. When I was in my 20s, the cutoff for cholesterol was, I think, 100 or something like that.
And I have no idea.
Or maybe, I don't know. Anyways, it has changed. Over the last 20 years, it has fluctuated to where most people now are high cholesterol. Even though they used to be, the cholesterol norm was different. And, I don't know how much I can trust that. Pretty much I want to know if I'm normal for me.
Right.
So you get your baseline, you see what normal is, and then you kind of go from there and you say, okay, maybe this is a little high. I need to tweak my diet. I need to do some exercise. I need to do this and this and this. Get it down to where you feel like you are in a good range, and then pick that as your normal. Oh.
We actually have a question.
I have a question. Oh, I see it. Are you talking about Miss Christie? Yeah. Miss Christie on Facebook asks, what can someone do at home to help with fibromyalgia? Well, that's a good question. Fibromyalgia is a sensitivity issue of nerves, and basically it's a syndrome, which means they've put it in a category. So everybody who has these sensitive nerves where they're feeling these nodules of pain get diagnosed as fibromyalgia. It's kind of a catch-all. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but it's like, we don't know what else to call you. You have all these painful spots. If you have, I think it's like 10 out of 12 or 10 out of 14 of these painful areas, you're diagnosed fibromyalgia. So fibromyalgia, though, is a sensitivity of the nerve issue. So whatever's making you sensitive, is it inflammation? Is it food sensitivity? Is it tight muscles? Is it stress? Is it too much copper in your water? Is it, you have to find out what the underlying issues are. What can you do at home? I mean, massage definitely helps. Anything that's going to reduce irritation or inflammation helps. Trying not to overutilize things all at once. Like, I'm going to go work in my garden like for 9 hours straight. Well, you're probably going to hurt tomorrow. I'm just saying. But what I think, is if you're mindful and you reach out to some natural health practitioners, you can get some really good ideas on how to deal with fibromyalgia. I have a ton of patients who come in for fibromyalgia symptoms, and I'm able to help them with that. Now, Can I say that I've cured their fibromyalgia? No. But do they lead a relatively symptom-free life through chiropractic and the other modalities that I use? Yeah, I mean, they do pretty well, or they wouldn't keep coming, you know.
Right.
And when I say keep coming, I might see them, you know, once or twice